Happy learning. Day 7. 7. Gonna go over some review problems and get into a little bit of the 8.5 stuff. Make sure to have this in a separate piece of paper because you're going to be coming and showing it to me tomorrow to get your points for this today. I want you to solve in simplest radical form for this problem. Again, when you're doing these problems in this whole chapter, you have to think, how am I going to solve this? SOHCAHTOA, special right triangles, a squared, b squared, c squared. First thing I notice is that I'm only dealing with side lengths. If you're only dealing with side lengths, you're going to be using a squared, b squared, c squared. You should pause the video, try to do it by yourself first. So x squared plus 12 squared equals 17 squared. If you do 17 squared minus 12 squared, you get this. You take the square root of both sides. You have to see if you can factorize that. For sure, it's divisible by 5. 29 is prime. There's no combination there. There's no pairs. So x is going to be equal to the square root of 145. Next. Again, first thing you should be looking at is how am I going to solve these problems and which way am I going to solve these problems. When I look at these, I have an angle. So you have to pay attention to the angle that's given. Is it a SOHCAHTOA question or a special right triangle? I want your answer in simplest radical form. That should be your first hint. If I want it in simplest radical form, that means you're probably going to be using special right triangles. So pause the video and attempt to find x, y in both problems. So the first one, both of these are labeled your leg. So if you look in your special right triangle cheat sheet, it's your hypotenuse divided by square root 2 is equal to your leg. You must rationalize that. Square root 2 over square root 2. Multiply across, you get 22 square root 2. Square root 2 times square root 2 is square root 4. Square root of 4 is 2. And then you can simplify that. So both x and y are the same because they're both the leg, 11 square root 2. Next one, it's a 30-60 triangle. So I label my sides. My short is across from my 30. My long is across from my 60. And my hypotenuse is across from my 90. So in order to find your short, it's your long divided by square root 3. Again, you need to rationalize. You get your short to be 4 square root 3. And then if you look at that special right triangle cheat sheet again, 2 times your short is equal to your hypotenuse. So that would be 8 square root 3. Next set of questions. Again, when I'm looking at these, the right triangles, I have angles in each of them. I'm looking for one. I have given one. And so I'm probably going to be using SOHCAHTOA since these are not special right triangles. So that's what you should be doing for these next 3 problems, using special right triangles. So this first one, you have the opposite and you have your hypotenuse. So it's so sine of your angle is equal to your opposite over your hypotenuse. You have to get rid of that trig function. You have to do the inverse. Inverse trig function is the -1. And whatever you do to one side, you must do the other side. And if you plug that into your calculator, you should round to your nearest whole number for angles. So in this case, it would be 24 degrees. For my second one, you have your opposite and hypotenuse again, so it's still going to be so. So I'm still writing up sine, but this time I'm given the angle is equal to my opposite over my hypotenuse. Remember, you always want to get rid of this division. This is divide by x. So in order to get rid of divide, you multiply on both sides. If I'm dividing by x, I have to multiply both sides by x. These two will cancel, so now I have x sine of 50 is equal to 9. Now you gotta get rid of this multiplication. To get rid of multiplication, you have to divide. This whole thing is a number. This whole thing stays together. Let's stick together. Yeah. That's from Parent Trap, if you didn't know that. So I'd put 9 divided by sine of 50. And notice from some quizzes, some people might not have it in degree form, which we did in class a different day. If you don't get this answer, you have to make sure to come and talk to me because you're not in degrees then. So the second one should be 11.75. And the last one, I have the opposite or adjacent and hypotenuse, so it's so it's cosine of your angle is equal to your adjacent over your hypotenuse. Again, you want to get rid of this division. In this case, I'm dividing by 15, so I need to multiply 15. Now, once I do that, my x is already by itself. So now I should be multiplying 15 times cosine 72, and I should get that my x value is equal to 4.64. Next. So now we're getting to 8.5. So it's putting a lot of SOHCAHTOA and everything, a squared, b squared, c squared, all together. So first, just actually naming, describing the compass direction. Now when you are doing this, you should always, always, always be starting from the straight line. So if I'm looking at this angle right here, this angle is right in this location. So I start from the straight line. So in this case, it's this line right here. And wherever I'm pointing first is what letter should come first. Now I'm pointing to the right first. Now you have to know your compass directions. You have to know that this is north, east, south, west. So in this case, this would be 15 degrees. And since I'm moving to the right first, I'm moving east first. So it would be east, north, because it's in between my east and my north. So it would be east, north. I want you to pause the video and try to do the next two by yourself. In this case, here's my angle right here. So again, I'm in between south and west. So it's either going to be southwest or west-south. So it's going to be 22 degrees. I'm starting it from my straight line always. I'm moving to the left first. So that would be west-south. Here, starting from my straight line, you notice that I use my x-axis or my north-south line compared to my x-axis here. So here I'm starting at my straight line and I'm moving down first. I'm moving down first. So this would be 78 degrees. I'm moving down, so that would be southwest. It does make a difference if you have west, south, or southwest. Now let's get into a little bit more complicated questions. Now, typical question, if this was given for a vector, typical question would be, describe the vector as an ordered pair. Now, one thing, when you see a picture like this, you should always complete your right triangle. Now, vector means it goes on forever. It's a type of direction. A lot of times, if you're going to be a pilot, you kind of work with vectors. If you're going to have anything, two things pushing each other, a lot of times if you have a boat, you're not going to be able to drive a certain distance if there's a harsh wind facing back at you. So I have to figure out the direction of my vector. So when I'm looking at this, I'm going to complete my right triangle. Here's my right triangle right here. Here's my angle. This is my opposite. That's when I move up and down like this, that's my y value. This would be my adjacent. When I move left and right like this, this is my x value. That's my vector. Now you have to be careful when you're finding your vectors. So we're going to be using SOHCAHTOA. This is my hypotenuse. My actual vector is my hypotenuse. So I'm going to set up two separate equations. I'm going to set up one for my x value. My x value is my adjacent and my hypotenuse. So that's going to be so it's cosine of 25 is equal to my adjacent over my hypotenuse. And I'm going to have a second equation because now I have my y is my opposite and my hypotenuse, O and H. So this is so sine of 25 is equal to my opposite over my hypotenuse. One thing you notice is that I labeled them x and y. X and y, make sure to do that. So you want to get rid of that division. So I have 18 cosine 25, and that would be 18 times cosine 25 is 7.25. And then I would have 18 times sine of 25, which y would be equal to 7.61. Now when you're writing your actual vector, we have these symbols like this. This is meaning that it's a vector, it's not an actual ordered pair. My x value is 7.25. My y value is 7.61. And if you leave your answer like that, you're not going to get full credit. Because with vectors, you have to make sure to go back. My x was moving to the right, that's positive, but my y was moving down, that's negative. So I have to represent that as a negative. So that would be my vector. And that's what you're doing on this Blended Learning Day. And you have a great, grand, wonderful day. And I hope to see you tomorrow. See ya!